Alright guys, so Total War Pharaoh's next major update has been revealed. It's going to be free, it's going to release later this year. We don't know exactly when, probably end of summer, autumn time. Pharaoh released around October last year, so probably around the same time this year as well. And this dedicated dev blog, which was released yesterday, goes into the plans of what we might expect in this release, the expanded campaign map, the new kingdoms, cultures, units, and mechanics, and a little bit more. So today in this video, we're going to dive straight into what all of this is about and give you a little bit of insight into what all of this might mean. So starting from the top, welcome to our first dedicated design blog for the free update coming to Total War Pharaoh later this year. We're very excited to dive into this ancient world and unveil the details of our expanded campaign map. Following the release of the game, our team paid close attention to your feedback, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and one major thing was clear: you wanted to see the addition of Babylon, Assyria, Mycenae, and Troy as playable cultures for the experience to truly feel like a Bronze Age epic, and that is essentially what they're trying to do. A lot of people were complaining about, and including myself, about this not really being a proper Bronze Age Total War game. This was very, very focused and narrow on the survival of the Kingdom of Egypt versus the Sea People's invasions, and various cultures being very siloed off and not really I don't know, I felt like it wasn't really engaging enough. The mechanics weren't deep enough. The faction leader focus wasn't appealing, and the scope was just too narrow. I think a lot of people wrote it off because of this main issue, alongside the price really not meeting the value that was being offered, etc. So they're really trying to do a lot of effort here, clearly, to fix that and release an expansion that addresses this particular issue and really expand it into a proper Bronze Age game. So what this update actually includes is we're going to see to the east the lands of Mesopotamia, a region known as the Cradle of Civilization. Will have some interesting, unique geographic characteristics, hilly steppes, arable river lands, and climate is dry but not desert-like. To the west, we'll have the addition of the Aegean. We'll have the city of Troy. Lots of additions from Total War Saga Troy coming over, and hopefully kind of updated, but probably a little bit reskinned. Let's be real. And Mycenae, Troy, lots of great additions there as well. So really nice looking campaign map here. It actually goes a little smaller when you click on it. So we'll look at it like this. It's very impressive in my opinion. This is the full Bronze Age scope that I'd really hoped from the game. This is how it should have launched at release, and they're doing it. They could have left it, but they're actually doing it, which is commendable. I think it's worth praising a little bit. And with the introduction of these land masses, we're going to get cultures. So we're getting, a new victory conditions, new faction leaders, units, you name it. We'll have like royal traditions in Mesopotamia to unite Babylon and Assyria alongside Elamites, and you can become the king of Mycenae and raid the seas. There's lots of interesting new mechanics being added here, and it's quite exciting. I think they're going to have to adapt a lot of what's already there to make it fit, which is it looks like what they're doing as well. So all really good and exciting stuff. For me, though, the biggest part of this design blog is in this section, Traversing the Ancient World, in which CA basically describes, with a much bigger campaign map, we need to focus on adding sea travel lanes to make armies move easier and quicker from region to region, and actually through various rivers as well. So you'll be able to, move an army from Achaia to Crete to the Nile and move down the Nile River. You'll be able to move up to the southern coast of Anatolia, around the Aegean, up to the northern coast of Anatolia as well, on the Black Sea. So some really nice additions here. That's a very welcome addition. And the Euphrates and Tigris rivers will be traversable with their own lanes in Mesopotamia. So some really, really nice stuff here. In fact, we can get a closer look because the main point I want to make is there are regions here. You can see on this map where the bulk of the regions are going to be added. So you can see Western Anatolia is getting loads of new regions, lots of new regions. We've got regions into Thrace and Achaia here as well. Crete, it looks like, has 6 regions in Crete alone. And obviously in the east with Mesopotamia, I think the original map stops around the beginning of the rivers. So with the rivers, an addition here, Euphrates, Tigris. You've got dozens and dozens of regions for Mesopotamia, and obviously this map doesn't go all the way to the Persian Gulf, and there's regions that border the coast of the Persian Gulf here as well. So lots of fantastic, interesting detail in terms of what the regions look like, where they're going to be placed. It looks quite even in between, looking at Western Anatolia and the Aegean versus Mesopotamia. Quite even. I would say probably a bit more towards Mesopotamia, but still, this is a really interesting look at how big and how massive the scale of this campaign map is from a kind of region expansion perspective. The other thing I just want to say here before moving on is these sea highways roughly simulate the naval trading routes near the Bronze Age coastline. So one thing you could imagine, obviously this is a bit of speculation, is in this first release, these are all used to traverse with your armies, but potentially a future update could turn these into trade routes as well. So this is something I would love to see in this game in a future update, adding a proper trade system mechanic for the campaign where various cultures can actually trade copper, tin, bronze, materials, you name it, marble, etc., to build up their civilizations, to defend themselves against the onslaught of the sea peoples. There's a really big aspect of this that is still missing, and this is a great, I think, foundation to have that happen. And then in the final section of this blog, we've got a little bit about iconic landmarks that are going to be in these new regions. The great city of Babylon is going to be a significant major settlement to conquer with lots of benefits, I'm sure. The great ziggurat of Ur, the temple of Anu, and on the Aegean side, of course, as well, Mount Olympus, the Meteora, the ancient statue of Cybele. Hopefully lots more of these great iconic landmarks to bring the campaign map to life. And of course, with this big expansion of the map, we're going to have systems already present in the game adapt to these new additions, new factions and regions, the mechanics like the sea travel lanes. How are the sea peoples going to be using that to invade Achaea, to destroy the city of Troy, or destroy a later version of the Minoan civilization in Crete, maybe with lots of interesting resources and trading capabilities. Lots of interesting stuff that can be done there from a sea people's perspective. But not just that, I mean, royal traditions, gods, ancient legacies. There's going to be a lot of interesting layers of the campaign that is still to be explored and explained in these dev blogs. So overall, there are two ways to take this, and both of them I think are equally valid and relevant. The first is all of this should have been here in the beginning, when the marketing for Pharaoh started, when dev blogs were going into the mechanics and the cultures, etc. The biggest thing that people were talking about is, where's the Aegean? Where is Mesopotamia? Why is this not a Bronze Age game? This is very narrow in scope in comparison to what you've done before in a historical setting, right? So this is the first thing. All of this really should have been here in the release of the game. The fact that they're doing this now is great, but the core mechanics, the things that really need to change to make this a proper historical game, moving away from faction leader focus to kingdoms, their mechanics, the court, the succession, all of that needs to be done first, really, to excite me. That is one way you can take it. It is very relevant, and I definitely feel that. It's great to see, and we know that CA are going to be doing things like family court mechanics, succession systems, and rejigging the mechanics to fit this bigger, larger scope of the ancient world. That's all great, but we need to see more detail about that really before we get excited. But on the other hand, of course, there is something to say that, when the Sea People's free expansion came out and not many people got into it, it didn't really do that well, I think. There is a very good argument to say that CA could have just left this game. They could have just stepped back and say, whatever we've done so far with this expansion, it's not worth it anymore. It's not worth the next 4 or 5 months of development. And we're just going to leave it. We're going to focus our energy on the next big thing and leave Pharaoh as it is. That could have very easily have happened. But it didn't, and that's why I'm surprised and delighted by this. I think that the Sea People's expansion being free, the lower price for the game back in December, January, that was a goodwill gesture by CA to say, we're sorry. This goes above and beyond that to say, you know what, we heard you, we know what you want out of Total War Pharaoh, and we are trying to deliver it with this major update that will be free as well. That is quite an interesting, exciting step forward for the game. It really actually does show that not only did, this update probably get in the works for years before, and they were just finishing it off to get it across the line, right? But they actually probably did listen to a lot of our feedback, did go through the hurdles to get it greenlit for a release. All of that probably did happen internally to make this happen. So I think that's worth praising a little bit. I think CA could very easily have left it, but they didn't, and they're making this a free update as well. This is not just goodwill. This is, we set out to do something, let's go all the way and finish it for our fans, and I quite like that. And that's it for today, guys. So Total War Pharaoh is getting an expanded map. It's coming out in a few months. I am both extremely cautious about what's going to happen. I don't really imagine that the core gameplay loop, the various issues that I had with the review, are really going to change that much. But the fact that they're adding new cultures, they're expanding the map and to such a wide degree is actually really good, really exciting. They didn't need to do any of this, and they're doing it anyway, especially for free. And that's worth praising. So I'm excited to see what's coming next. So I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, give it a like and drop any thoughts or questions in the comment section below. I would love to hear what you think about this expanded campaign map, all the various changes that are going to be coming. Hopefully we learn more in the future about them as well, but I'd love to hear what you think so far in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel for more Total War content, gameplay, and news just like this. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.